Hello, oodles and freaking noodles. We're back to talk yet again about another fantasy novel, because that's what I do here. We talk fantasy because I feel like it. That's mostly it. I wanted to review book 2 of The Keepers, RavenCaller. I have already done a review of book 1, Soul Keeper. You can check it out. I'll put the link somewhere. And I literally just finished this book, and I appreciated book 1. It was interesting, it was fascinating, it had a lot of whip smart conversations, there was an interesting world. It was pretty kind of focused in on one specific area, but that actually really helped it a lot. It helped build up this world where fae, magical creatures, have come back after many centuries of having been in an enforced slumber by the goddesses. And as well as them awakening, there are the 5 dragons of change, who are the first creations of the goddesses, who came out and created the dragon sire, these magical fae creatures. There was wars, there was fighting, the humans and them did not get along, there was way too much conflict, and a lot of things that are not properly explained. And we're seeing this all through the eyes of Devin, who is a Soul Keeper. He is basically this warrior priest who works alongside the Keeping Church and worships the 3 goddesses, and they're trying to deal with all this change. And Devin is a bit of a unique character. He's very open-minded, and through, of course, a lot of coincidences in this book, he happens to meet quite a few of the dragon side who are not bad. They're not all bad, just like humans. There are bad humans, there are bad fae, and that's about it. And so he befriends some of them and learns a lot about what's going on, and he's trying to deal with all these things. And simultaneously, there are humans who are starting to develop abilities. Some are not part of the church, some are, but they all come from the goddesses in one way or another. There are healings and abilities that allow people to strengthen others, and there's simultaneously curses that can very much hurt people. And so you're seeing this conflict kind of happening as suddenly humans are developing abilities, not only just abilities by the church, but also magical abilities. There are humans who can tap into the dragon's magical abilities. So each dragon represents a certain magic, like ether, for example. So one of our main characters, Tommy, gets to tap into the ether abilities, which is basically just manipulating the elements, fire, water, ice, stuff like that. It's pretty interesting, pretty cool. So Soul Keeper really built a nice foundation of kind of introducing us to these different magical abilities, the different dragons. It was nicely paced. There was lots of action. Devin as a character is pretty interesting. He's complex. He's had a lot of stuff happen to him in his life, but simultaneously is not too much of a character that you would lose yourself in, which kind of opens up a little bit of space for other characters, which happened to be, for example, his sister Adria, who was the first keeper to start healing people, and which leads to a huge ending where Adria is sort of given more powers by the dragon sire as a way for humans to kind of break away from the goddesses. Now, this is forced upon her. She's not exactly a huge fan of it, and she doesn't want to help the dragon sire at all because she's very devoted to the goddesses. And so book 1 sort of ends on this precipice where Adria now has the ability to play around with souls. She can literally pull the soul from someone's body. She can put a soul back in. There's lots of things she can do. And this gives her loads of power because she can tap into a soul's sort of infinite strength. And that's where book 2 starts off, with Adria really starting to develop and learn about her abilities, trying to figure things out. Devin, of course, is going through this mishmash where he's trying to protect people, he's trying to understand these situations, and things are going even worse. This second book really is, it's as though David put the action on like hyper mode. It's just, there's always something happening. There are crazy people wandering around, eating other folks. There's monsters attacking the city. There are representatives from different, we could call them, I suppose, tribes, but different peoples of the Dragon Sire coming in and trying to make peace deals, and things going horribly wrong. There's a new character, Dirk, who is just really messed up. really messed up. We really get to know a lot more about the RavenCallers, people who effectively are using the goddess's abilities to cast curses, and how that's really causing a lot of confrontation between the different factions. You're seeing a lot more of the political side of things in the background and how that's all messed up. And of course, the ongoing story with Jacaranda, who was given a soul in the first book, and how she's trying to deal with her own trauma and all this stuff. And it's all coming together and mishmashing. We see a little bit of Janice, but not that much. Janice being Vicus, I don't know how to say it, one of the dragon's subjects who can basically manipulate his own form and is pretty much crazy and just likes murdering human beings and making art from it. And so we just have so much going on, and we're being introduced to so many more of the Dragon Sire and their own feelings and emotions and what happened in the past, the old wars. We do get to finally see the Evanria, who are sort of the source of RavenCaller powers, in a sense of like, you get to know where it all stemmed from and what the Evanria are. You start to find out a lot more about the Void, which is this darkness, which we saw a little bit at the end of book 1. I just find the pacing of this book, the character development, everything is just off its rocker. It's constantly going. It's not that it's perfect. There's a lot of actions that certain people take that don't really make much sense, and you can really, really tell they're being manipulated. But this book really goes to show how much corruption there is in the human society, how much conflict there is even within and between the Dragon Sire themselves, really, really represented by the Evanria. You see a lot of that. You also just get really cool magic, lots of battles. The one thing I will say in this is that after finishing the second book, which had, to be fair, one of the most messed up endings I've ever seen. It's, in two ways, we saw some death that was really, really not expected and very sad, and simultaneously something happened and was done by Adria that was really messed up. I mean, both things technically tied into her, but that's another whole story. I just say this has a really great twist of an ending, and it's really, really messed up. I'm really curious where David is going to bring it in book 3. That being said, like I said, it's really just, we finished book 2 and we're still only in Lonheim. We get this little tiny glimpse in a chapter of another place and what's happening with the other dragons. Well, one dragon in particular. But other than that, we still are not seeing this, what effect this is having on the rest of the world. And I find it very unlikely that this, to the point that the goddesses put these dragons to sleep and all this stuff, and yet everything revolved only around Lonheim. So it's kind of weird that David is just not talking at all about any other places. What's happening there? What are the other dragons doing? What are the other Dragon Sire doing? I just find there's not enough scope on this, and there should be, because they're talking about basically the very fabric of the world and how the world is going to be set up, and this whole conflict between the Dragon Sire and humans. And I'm going to assume it wasn't just in this small little bubble place known as Lonheim. So I don't know. That's the one thing that bothers me. Now, to be fair, I'm not actually sure if this is only going to be a trilogy. So it's very, very possible that David is going to go past book 3. I know book 3 is already out. I have to get it. Did I even buy? I already bought it. Jeez, I'm so burnt. I already bought Voidbreaker, so I am going to read it. That's so many books I've been reading on Kindle these days. I actually confuse myself sometimes. I do have Voidbreaker, so I will read that. I'm not sure if that's actually the final book in the series, though. So, I don't know. Oh no, it is the final book. It is the final book. So I think that's probably going to be my biggest bother in the series, because the book doesn't look that much larger. If anything, it looks smaller than Soulkeeper and Ravenkeeper. So I doubt he's expanding it. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You want to keep a story tight and linear and not really branch out too much. But it would have been much more interesting to see the rest of the world and see what was happening. Now, you don't have to go everywhere, but still, this very much could have been something huge that was really touched upon and expanded upon in different areas and places and had more characters. I really wouldn't have minded that. But maybe that's why I'm enjoying it so much, is because there's not all that messiness and so much complexity. It's really, really just staying tight to its story. So we'll see how that goes. I definitely recommend this book. I recommend Soulkeeper. Soulkeeper was really fun. It really brought you up and explained things slowly, gently, while just being action-packed. And RavenCaller just really is just emotionally just one thing after another happening that is royally messed up each time it does happen, and super interesting. So check it out. Let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out the website geektales.ca. And yeah, thanks for listening.